Hi guys, it's me, Arden Lee, and in today's video, I'm answering a question that was posed by one of the members of the Repatterning Parlor, which is the free group that I moderate on Facebook. So by the way, if you're not yet a member of it, check out the link in the description box and come say hi. And this question is about how do they stop the pattern of um, feeling too shy to own their desire for sexual intimacy with their partner and finding a way around that desire by picking a fight so that they can have makeup sex. Because it's possible, they said, that they feel charged or thrilled by the intensity of makeup sex, right? So the first thing that we want to look at here is we want to look at where there is a block to expressing the desire for intimacy, right? Oftentimes, when we try to find like a serpentine way of getting our needs met because we don't want to just state outright what it is that we want or need, oftentimes what that points to is that there was a time in our past that we were shamed for speaking up or for expressing those needs. So we want to look at that, and we want to realize that in a healthy relationship, we absolutely have the right to speak up and to articulate our needs for intimacy, our desire for intimacy. In fact, we want to start installing the belief that it's a positive to our relationship to start speaking up about our needs. Now, that doesn't always mean that our partner is going to be able to meet our needs in the moment. Sometimes they might be busy with something else. Sometimes their level of desire is not going to be the same as ours. And I'm sure that, the same will be true in reverse, naturally. But we want to be able to understand that speaking up and being honest about our needs and desires is first and foremost something that is going to promote a healthy relationship, right? Rather than going around and trying to get our needs met in this sort of circuitous way, which is really, at the end of the day, which is really emotionally manipulative. And I say this having done the same thing. For me, it wasn't about starting fights. It was about being overtly pleasing. Like, I felt like I had to earn intimacy, right? So if I wanted to feel close to my partner, I knew that a way that I could do that was to like buy them a gift or do something for them. And then I would feel like I had earned the right to request more intimacy. That's not necessarily healthy either, because again, I wasn't speaking up directly about my needs and being honest. We want to be in relationships where honesty around our needs is accepted and encouraged, right? So that may be a bigger can of worms that gets opened if we learn that our partner is not encouraging and accepting of our expression of our desires. Now, again, expressing and more importantly, the acceptance and encouragement of the expression of our desires is not the same thing as a guarantee that those desires will always be met, right? But we want to be met with compassion and with love, even if someone says, you know what, I don't have the bandwidth for what you're asking for right now, but I so appreciate that you spoke up about it, and like, let's put something on the calendar so that you know that this is important to me and we'll have your needs get met later, right? If you're in a relationship where you're being shamed for the expression of your desires, that's something that you might want to examine. And unfortunately, sometimes we will try to go about getting our desires met in a circuitous way precisely because we don't want to examine that. That's a tough one, because opening that can of worms, if that is really the case, is unpleasant and is difficult. But at the end of the day, it's better to know what is actually going on in our relationships than to keep all of that in shadow. Because when we know that there's an issue there, then we can start to address it. We can start to fix it. Maybe we end up going to couples counseling with our partner. whatever that happens to be. Whatever solution we take at that point. But let's assume that you're in a relationship where if you were to speak up about a need for intimacy, you would at least be met with kindness and compassion and encouragement, right? Why then might it be difficult to speak up about the intimacy that you're craving? Again, you may have been made to feel shame for speaking up about your needs and desires at an earlier point in your life, and now it becomes something that you're afraid of. So, what I want to encourage you to be able to articulate is, first of all, anytime you're having trouble expressing a need or desire, or expressing pretty much anything that you want to speak up about, I always encourage journaling, right? I always encourage us going back to putting pen to paper and getting the words out, because once we start encouraging our own selves to put words to our internal processes, our internal feelings, it helps us become better and better and better at articulating them in real time and to the people in our lives that we want to express them to, because we get used to expressing them to ourselves, and then the next step to take is just to be able to express those words to the other person that is the relevant party in the equation. So if we can get used to articulating them for ourselves first, that's going to be a really good step, because then we're going to have the words there when we want to express them to the person in question. So getting clear to yourself first, practicing articulating those desires. Maybe you practice even having this conversation in the car. You practice maybe having this conversation with a close friend before you go to your partner if it's something that still feels scary. But at the end of the day, you want to recognize, and props to this person who brought this question up, because they said in their comment that they recognize the pattern and they want to be able to change it, right? So once we recognize that and we get better at expressing those desires to ourselves, at least in a healthy way, then we can make the conscious choice. We can notice in the moment when we're falling into our old pattern, and we can stop ourselves and say, hey, you know what, babe, I actually think that this thing that we're fighting about right now, I think it's possible that I'm actually not that upset about it. I think what might really be going on for me is that I have a desire for more intimacy with you. I want to have sex with you. And the way that I know to go about getting that is by picking a fight so that we have makeup sex. And I don't want to do that anymore, because the fights are inevitably going to stress out our relationship. And the truth is, I really want to just skip to the part where we have hot, intense, passionate sex, right? Now, that might sound like a difficult conversation to have with your partner, because you're going to be admitting to them and to yourself what you're actually doing in this moment. But I guarantee you, if you open up in that way, and you can let your partner know what's really going on for you, and you can ask even for their support in expressing your sexual and intimate needs and desires, then that's going to go so much better for you in the long run, and even to be able to ask them, like, hey, sometimes I have a hard time expressing my desire for you. I don't know why that is, but sometimes it just feels easier to pick a fight instead. So can you support me in doing this? When if you wanna help us have less fights in our relationship, which who doesn't want that? Can you be supportive of me when I speak up and I articulate my sexual needs and desires to you? That doesn't mean, again, that you always have to fulfill them, but can you give me positive encouragement for expressing myself? And can we find a way to get those needs and desires met, or at least visited eventually, right? So again, sometimes when we're aware of a pattern and we feel like we can't stop, it's just a matter of bringing more conscious awareness to what we're doing in the moment and making a new choice. And that new choice will feel difficult. It will grate against ourselves, because again, neurons that fire together wire together, right? So we carve these pathways in our actions and our choices. We carve these neural pathways by what we naturally go to. And it's harder. It's like redirecting a river, like we have to make a path that is actually clearer than the old one that we were accustomed to. So we start to, even though it goes against our natural instincts at first, we bring that conscious awareness to what we're doing in the moment. We decrease our turnaround time. We start to notice earlier and earlier when we're slipping back into our old pattern again, and we decide to make a new choice, right? So practicing articulating your desires so that you can get used to expressing them without feeling that shame or shyness or hesitancy around them, and then noticing in the moment what you're doing and redirecting that current. So, and that applies to that last part especially applies to any and all of our patterns that we're trying to break. Is just bringing more conscious awareness and making a choice to do something different. And I'm not saying that that's going to be easy necessarily. It's not going to necessarily be something that we achieve on the first try. It may take us 5 or 7 or a dozen times, before we actually start to feel more comfort in doing things in the new way. But that's precisely what repatterning is all about, is staying with that discomfort and deciding that that discomfort and working through it is ultimately worth the reward of installing a new pattern that's going to be healthier for us and healthier for our relationships. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.